That was lovely. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I was talking with Dalton earlier, and he says, well, this is kind of a secular group. They don't really sing at churches, and it's like, so it's kind of like this, how do we find, what works for everybody and that they know and that, is okay with us and good stuff and like that. So I'm really grateful. So that's the John Mayer song, is that correct? Yeah, Waiting on the World to Change. So our talk topic today is what seeks expression through you? What seeks expression through you? Not through that person over there, through you, me. What seeks expression through each of us? We're working on, along with almost all the other religious science churches in the country and in the world, with this theme of creating a world that works for all. That's our intention. That's the vision that we are holding, is a world that works for all. And how can we be part of that solution? How can we be part of creating that? And so our vision that we have for today is what we see our organization as a global community that embraces peace, love, and compassion. And I might add, for all to that. For all. So that's our vision. That's what we're holding in consciousness. And as we ask the question, what wants to come through us, we can kind of take the quick and easy answer that there's an infinite presence that is constantly seeking expression through me. I'm letting God come through me. Okay? But I want to ask the question of what exactly does that look like in this world in which we live right now? You see, while I love the song, I don't necessarily believe that waiting for the world to change will actually change the world. And so I'm going to invite us to sort of take a deeper consciousness and say, and I'm going to be part of the change of what is happening. I may not even know yet what that is, but I'm going to be part of it. I'm going to be part of it. Because I don't want to leave this generation and the next generation. I have a little granddaughter who's 5 years old, who's out in children's church. I don't want to leave them with the world being in the shape it's in right at the moment. And I want to set it in motion to where something more is happening. Yesterday and over the weekend in the men's retreat, we worked with the idea of, we took the myth of Odysseus, the journey of Odysseus, some of you know it as Odysseus, the Odyssey, Homer's Odyssey, and looked at that from a metaphysical, a metaphorical, a story to follow. That's why I was joking that we, as Sue was talking about the women, kind of, have fun hanging around like that. The men were busy rowing through, the Mediterranean Sea from Troy back to Ithaca, and visiting various islands and getting blown all over the place and having these adventures. And in mythology, whether it's Greek mythology, whether it's Hindu mythology, whether it's Norse mythology, whatever mythology, the gods and the humans interact with each other. The gods try to be more involved in the world of the humans, and the humans try to be more working with the gods, more like God-like. Okay? And that is the dance that happens within us. We try to be more God-like, and the infinite presence that has taken form takes form as us, right? We're expressions of the divine. It's trying to be more experiencing the human realm. In quantum physics, we might simply look at that as wave and particle are trying to be, balanced with each other, go back and forth. Mass and feminine, black and white, dark and light are trying to interact with each other. There's a yearning that happens back and forth. In the Taoist, the yin-yang presence, constantly cycling through. And so that presence is looking to express as us. And if we will say yes, if we will open the door, Emerson says that we are inlets and we may become outlets to the divine. We are inlets. We're already there. We're already plugged in. We're already its expression in form. We don't have to do anything to be that. Okay? We have to, however, make a conscious choice that, yes, I will become an outlet. Yes, I like to say, I think I used this a couple weeks ago, a faucet for God. Am I willing to turn on the faucet and let that infinite presence? And for you guys, when I talk of God, it isn't a big bearded guy up in the sky. It's this kind of an infinite possibility presence of pure love, of pure joy, of pure wholeness that we're allowing to work through ourselves. Just so you know where I'm coming from. What does it mean when we say that God is love? The Bible and on almost every other spiritual book says that not that God is loving, but that God is love itself. You and I are embodiments of love. Literally the very cells of our body, our atoms, our subatomic particles, all of it is love, manifested into form. Breathe that in for a moment. I am love. Just say that to yourself. I am love. I am love in form. Say it out loud. I am love in form. I am love in form. I am love in form. So if I'm expressing anything that is not love, if I have a place where I'm withholding love, but that is a place where I'm not allowing the infinite presence that wants to express through me to express, I'm withholding that. I've got a block going. And if you're like me, I got blocks going, right? I got judgments about people and judgments about situations, and I find it hard to hold people in love sometimes. So if we're not holding all beings in love, if I'm not coming from that place. Now, we don't have to like what they're doing, by the way. Just to be clear. It's okay to say, I really don't like when that person is doing that. Or I really don't like this situation. But can I hold that being? Can I see the oneness between that and myself, that being and myself? Can I see that every single political candidate is one with me? Can I see that the black man who is lying bleeding to death in the road and the police officer who shot him and I are all one? Take a breath with me, because that sometimes is really hard to fathom. Again, I don't have to like what is happening. I can say, and yes, that is not appropriate and it needs to stop. And yet, all of that lives within me. All of it lives within me. We teach that everything is consciousness, and that consciousness itself is the cause. Everything we see out here is the world of effect, and the cause is the consciousness. Are we aligned with harmony? If I have a harmonious relationship with the planet itself, with the earth, okay, I create a different result than if I think I can pull all the resources out of it and don't really care about the consequences. Different consciousness. And so can we be in that place where we start to hold all as sacred and all with respect? That all beings are sacred. Even the ones who really tick us off are still, guess what? Sacred. They're still the presence in form. It's not always comfortable to live here because we're sensitive people. And we look at this stuff and we feel it, right? We feel it in our hearts. And it hurts when we see some of the things we see on the news. But we can't run away from it. We have to look at it. We have to say, I'm willing to look at this and start to address it and start to shift it. If I'm just waiting on the world to change, I'm not picking on anything. It's a great song. And there's a line in there that says, we're waiting till we get into power ourselves, I believe, something to that effect. We're waiting until we can have the influence on the world. And so sometimes that's what it takes. It takes the development, it takes the birthing of consciousness and the coming together of exactly how is this going to look. And sometimes it takes that if I'm learning how to paint with Shari's class, if I'm learning how to do watercolor, it takes me doing it badly for a while first, right? It takes me waiting for the skill to develop. If I was to learn how to sing like these guys, it takes a while. These guys have only been together, 6 months did you say? 6 weeks. 6 weeks. Okay? I want to hear them a year from now. Because what I know is as good as they are now, that waiting process, there's a wonderful thing that says, wait on the Lord in the Bible. As we wait and allow that process to develop, as we allow the coalescence to come together, it gets even better. And so as we wait on the world, but if we wait in consciousness, rather than just saying, I'm going to check out and not do anything, but waiting consciously, so that I can do something, so I can bring forth my gift. And maybe right now is not the time. But am I going to do it? If I have a seed to give, am I going to wait for the time to plant it and notice the time to plant it and be conscious about that time to plant it? And so we are going through growing pains as a planet right now. Right? You've noticed that? So we are growing in consciousness. We are raising in consciousness. And as one of my teachers said, anytime we rise in consciousness, whenever we go for anything unlike that consciousness shows up, comes to the surface. And then she went on to say, for the purpose of healing and release, and that's the important part to remember. It's not just to show up and go, oh my God, I'm hopeless, and everything's horrible. No, see, all the racism, all the hatred, all the stuff, all the misuse of the planet, all of this has always been present, right? It's been present. If you look back through history, I mean, the Greeks and the Trojans were fighting over each other because they didn't like each other. Okay? Why couldn't they just all get along? You know? We wouldn't have had our story of Odysseus, but why couldn't we all just get along, you know? So we've been doing this for millennia. And we're saying, as more and more people say, you know what, we're going higher in consciousness, all this stuff has to come up. I love Harry Potter metaphors, and so one of the Harry Potter stories that I like to use is that in the first year of Harry Potter, they're having dinner in the Great Hall, and somebody comes running in, one of the professors comes running in and says, there's a troll in the dungeon. He says it rather dramatically. Troll in the dungeon, and passes out. There's a moment of pause, pure silence, and then panic, right? And Dumbledore, who symbolizes the highest consciousness, calls them back to order, calls them back to themselves, and starts to organize it. Now, what is the troll in the dungeon? The dungeon is that unconscious part of us, that below the surface part, and the troll is that which we don't want to face. And by the way, trolls don't respond well to magic. They can't just whip out a spell and make it go away. They got to actually deal with it. Okay? Deal with it. Sometimes we like to there's a saying in religious science, we like to just pray it away. Sometimes we actually just have to actually really deal with it to get to the core of it. And so in this metaphor, Harry and Ron are heading for their houses, for their dorm rooms, where they're scheduled to go, and they remember that their friend Hermione is off in the girls' bathroom crying because of something they had said to her earlier that they had hurt her feelings. And so they have the intention of going and saving her and making sure that she's safe. So they run off they get out of line, they run off, which you're not supposed to do, to the girls' bathroom to get her and get her out of there. And when they arrive in the girls' bathroom, what they find is the troll has left the dungeon and is now in the girls' bathroom. Okay? And suddenly the same intention, keeping Hermione safe, becomes a lot more intense. Same intention, same idea, keep Hermione safe, but now it's much more intense. We're looking at a planet things are getting much more intense, right? They're not below the surface. They're not in the dungeon anymore. We're up. And we got to deal with it. We have to deal with it. And like Ron and Hermione and Harry, they have no clue how to deal with a troll. They're 11 or 12 years old. They're in their first few months of wizarding school. They can't sit there and do some fancy whatever. Harry ends up sticking his wand, the wand he's later going to use to fight the Dark Lord, up the nose of the troll, right? And and they're throwing broken pieces of the bathroom at the troll. They're trying anything to find something to work. Are we willing to look at the problems of the world, and if we don't know the solutions, to start trying something that might work? And maybe the first thing won't work, and maybe the second thing won't work, but maybe the combination altogether starts to have an effect. Maybe the accumulated consciousness of, yes, I am willing to face this, and yes, I am willing to start finding solutions from a place of deep consciousness, not from a place of reaction. See, we can look at the stuff that's happening, we can do fight, flight, or freeze, right? We can get angry and go out and, I'm just going to, let's get some cops, or let's get some, whoever's, okay? Doesn't work, does it? And oftentimes we're misguided into the wrong people. We can flight. I had a wonderful experience, less than wonderful experience, in Eugene last week, where we were talking in the conference, the New Thought conference, about looking at the shadow. And on the break, I was talking with this one quite older gentleman who said, well, I'm really glad I'm old. I'm not going to have to face this stuff. I'm going to be gone before the oceans start to rise, and somebody else can deal with that. And I was kind of shocked, frankly. And I thought to myself, it's like, you don't understand consciousness. You don't understand. You're not going anywhere. Your body may lay down, but you, the essence of who you are, is not going anywhere. And the consciousness that we use to create what we're experiencing here and now will stick with us, whether we're on this planet or somewhere else, or doing something else. Until we work through the consciousness, have you ever noticed that until we work through it, it keeps on coming back at us? If you're like me, you've had the face of several spouses come back, and the faces change, but it's the same spouse over and over again, right? Okay? Or the same boss and the same job or the same situation. And until we develop the consciousness to move through what we are facing, and it's uncomfortable, and it's challenging, and it's difficult, and we sit there and go, I have no idea. If you're like me, at some point in time in a relationship, you've sat there and going, I give up. I have no idea how to make this one work. And that's the point where something can actually happen. When I start to say, you know what, and not give up, but still be willing to have something come through. I create a pause, I create an opening where something new can come through. I learned last week from one of my friends that in quantum physics, the universe is turning on and off at 26,000 times a second. The world that we see is not present 26,000 times a second, and is present 26,000 times a second. Pretty interesting, isn't it? In that gap, where the world that we see is not, we can make changes so when it comes back on, it's different. That's called going to cause. That's called going to deep consciousness. How can I get behind the world of appearance? You know, we talk about that all this stuff out here is just effect. We want to work with cause. We spend our time trying to comb the mirror instead of our hair, as my friend Eddie Watkins says. How can we shift that? How can we go to that behind the scenes? Can I live that? Can I create an opening? Can I be deep enough in consciousness? Deep meditation, deep prayer, deep whatever it is that I do, to where I start to be the person who starts to, as the world turns on, it's a little bit different. And the next time it's a little bit different. And the next time it's a little bit different and a little bit better and a little bit more loving. Am I willing to be a place who's a placeholder and an agent of love? Years ago, 15 years ago, when I watched like many of us did, the planes fly into the buildings in New York City and the Pentagon and the field in Pennsylvania, I learned about the idea of terrorist cells. I had not heard that before. And I had this idea, so what if we had peace cells that were as committed to peace and to creating a better world as we had terrorist cells who were committed to the terror and what they were doing? What if we had groups of people who were that committed? I mean, these guys did long haul, long running, learning how to do all they didn't just come over spontaneously and do it. They planned this. It took a while. Okay? What if we planned and took a while, but came out with peace, came out with being a place and a group and a consciousness for love? What if we could do that? What if we started to say, I'm not willing to accept what's going on, and I'm going to find some solutions? The Dalai Lama, in an interview last year when a British interviewer was asking him about terrorism, said, we cannot solve this problem only through prayers. I am a Buddhist and I believe in praying, but humans have created this problem, and now we're asking God to solve it. It is illogical. So let us work for peace within our families and society and not expect for help from God, Buddha, or the governments. Not wait for somebody else. I have bad news for you. Whether we elect Donald, Hillary, Bernie, Jill, whoever else is running, Gary, thank you. Whether we elect him to president or not, the change in the world will not come from them. Whoever we elect into the Congress, it will not come from them. They may have an influence, but we in the consciousness are the creators of this world. We in consciousness. And we in consciousness, by the way, have manifested these people to run. And so if you're sitting there going, I don't like any of them, guess what? I don't necessarily mean all the people in this church, I mean we as a country, as a planet, have created this. It's happening not just here, it just happened in England with the Brexit. It's happening all over the place. And part of the expression of this is, I'm dissatisfied with the way things are. I'm dissatisfied with the way things are, so I'm looking at wild, crazy solutions. What we have to do is be the place that says, I may disagree with that candidate, so I'm going to stand for what I would like them to stand for. if I want them to stand for inclusivity, if I want them to stand for love, if I want them to stand for honesty, for integrity, will I be the place that does that? Will I be the person who brings that in my life, everywhere in my life? Because if I'm waiting for somebody else to do it and pointing my finger and saying they got to change, that's a wonderful way to avoid my life. Byron Katie, as I mentioned before, talks about that there's only 3 businesses that are available: God's business, other people's business, and my own business. And the only one that I can really be involved in and have any influence on is my own business. And so my own business is to say, I'm going to walk through this world as a place of love, as a place of peace, as a place of willing to look and see the God in every single person that I see. Whether I like what they're doing or not, I'm willing to look past what they are doing and see the essence of this person. See from my heart instead of from my judging intellect. See from my heart, from my spirit, from my consciousness, the real truth of this person, the real truth of this circumstance and this situation. We live on a beautiful planet. It knows how to heal itself. And we can come into alignment with that healing process, or we can be the thing that it heals itself of. Okay? I would rather that we become in alignment with the healing process. I'd rather we come in alignment with the healing process of the racism and the sexual discrimination and all the ways we separate each other, to start to see the unity. If I believe in separation in any way, in any place, in any form, I am part of the problem, not part of the solution, and I am not living from what wants to express through me. So I'm going to invite us this week to start to be deeply, deeply, subtly aware of how am I in the world. When I look at a homeless person in Reading, do I see God? Or do I see a problem that needs to be dealt with? When I see the drug addict, do I see God? Do I see a person who's hurting and trying to find a solution? Or do I see somebody to judge? When I see a police officer, when I see a person of color, when I see whatever it is, when I'm looking at the news, do I use the news as an opportunity to go deeper into seeing God, or as an opportunity to get myself riled up? Because the news, I think you guys alluded to that in the first song, likes to spin us up. There's a Black Eyed Peas song that says wrong information always shown by the media. Negative image is the main criteria. Infecting the young minds faster than bacteria, kids want to act out what they see in the cinema. Whatever happened to the values of humanity? Whatever happened to fairness and equality? Instead of spreading love, we're spreading animosity, lack of understanding, leading us away from unity. And the call of the song's name is Love. Where is the love? Where is the love? Can we follow the path of love and walk that path? In the men's group, we did an exercise where we were given a path to follow. And it was a narrow path. It recreated the passage between Scylla and how do you pronounce that? Who was Charybdis. Between Scylla and Charybdis. And when Odysseus passes through that, if he gets too close to one or the other, he's within arrow's range and he's within the range of the monsters who live on those islands. He has to take a very narrow passage through that. The passage to walk through this world is a narrow passage. There's all sorts of distractions on it, right? And so we reenacted that with the distractions. And what I loved, at the end of it, we had the person that the person wanted to be, their true, authentic self. We had a person who represented that for them and kept calling to them. And it was interesting to watch. Some men got involved in the distractions, because we also set people up to be, these are my distractions, these are the things that will take me off my path. And so we had people acting that out for them, rather loudly, by the way. Okay? And so you're walking through this path, and these people are yelling at you. We got some distorting music going through the building. The person has a God person kind of advising them in the rear, reminding them of who they are, and this person calling them at the end of it. And the way to get through it is to put your attention on first the path and the person at the end of it. Where am I going? Can we hold a vision of how we want this world to go? How we want this world to be? Can we hold that vision of a world that truly, truly, truly works for all, even if we're not clear what that is or what it looks like and have no clue how to get there? Can we still hold the vision and let the vision begin to pull us in that direction? And that's my invitation this week, as we start to create that vision of where it is that we want to go. to create this world that is a heck of a lot better than some of the stuff that is happening in it now. And by the way, I want to say at the same time, there are wonderful things happening in this world right now, right? And no, the media doesn't share those a lot, but there are wonderful things. There are wonderful people. There's you and I, and there's beautiful music, and there's beautiful, the nature is still, I'm sorry, it is just as beautiful as it ever was, right? So we have to also watch what it is that we're focusing on. So we're not being distracted, not buying into all this cause. It's happening, it is true, but we don't have to get so immersed in it and so agitated by it that we're no good. There's a wonderful phrase we like to say that we shouldn't be so spiritual that we're no earthly good. We should also not be so earthly that we're no spiritual good, and so wrapped up in this stuff. So I invite you this week to find that happy medium, to find that place of power that you walk through in consciousness. Ernest Holmes tells us that we don't have to deny the existence of the condition. We do get to deny, however, that the condition needs to continue to exist. And so we look at the shadow, we look at what's existing, and we don't deny it. We don't go, la, 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 it's not there. This is, there's a religious science minister who supposedly goes to hell and ends up sitting there going, this is not hell and it's not hot. It's not hell, it's not hot. It's not hell and it's not hot. It is hell and he is hot, But he doesn't have to stay there in consciousness. We don't have to stay here. Yes, this is happening. Yes, this is happening. We don't have to have it continue to happen. So this week I'm going to invite us to do three things. Number one is be willing to look. Be willing to face that shadow. Harry Potter was the one who, people around him all referred to the Dark Lord as he who must not be named. And Harry Potter eventually says, he's got a name, it's Voldemort. Get over it. Until we can name our fear, until we can cut it down to size by saying, it's this, we can't deal with it. Are we willing to look at the shadow and say, it is this, and now let's find a way through it. Now let's find a way to deal with it. And so we look at that shadow, and we recognize that as a shadow, it has no power. See, I've got a shadow here somewhere. It has no power over me. Guess who controls where the shadow goes? I do, by my movements. It has no power. It just looks like it has a lot of power. Second thing, after we're willing to look, is be willing to bring our consciousness to life. Our consciousness. We have a beautiful teaching here that helps us to understand that we're living in a world that is in love with us, in love with itself as itself, that we have a consciousness and we can change our consciousness to change any result we're experiencing now. We can change our consciousness and that we are one with all the planet. And so that idea of, well, who am I? I'm just a little powerless person. I'm just sitting here in Reading, and how can I change all this stuff and like that? Guess what? You are interconnected. You and I are interconnected with the entire world. Ernest has a wonderful saying that God plus one is the majority. The infinite presence, if we're clear on it, plus one, plus ourselves being willing, is a majority. We can create. And finally, the third thing I invite us to do is to be willing to listen to what wants to express through me as a solution. Be open to listening to that. Be open to listening to that. To be able to look at this thing and say, I'm going to sit and listen to what it is that is mine to do and then to do it. So as the Dalai Lama says, we don't just wait for God or hope that God or a government or somebody else will fix it, that we become the solution. We start to move it through. Will you join me in that spiritual practice this week? Being willing to look, being willing to bring our consciousness to life, and finally being willing to listen to what wants to express through us and saying yes to that. Would you join me in that? Yes. Wonderful. I love the reading we had today, the phrase in the reading that we are doing soul-sized steps. Soul-sized steps. We are being called to being the highest and best we have ever been. And we get to answer that call with a yes or a no, or a maybe, or I'll wait, or let me check it out. Whatever it is we answer it with, I invite us to answer with yes. I want to close with a quote from Ernest. He says, it is one thing to know a principle and another to apply it. The Spirit can only do for us what it can do through us. Unless we are able to provide the consciousness, it cannot make the gift. When we understand the law, we learn to consciously embody what we wish and think of this only, and then we are drawn silently toward it. I invite you to put your vision of where we want this planet to go, where you want your individual life to go, and allow that to pull you into it, even if you don't know how that is right now. So let's move into prayer. So knowing that there is one infinite presence, beyond all the names, one presence, one life, one that is the pure love of this universe, that is the power, that is the harmony, that is the creative expression, that shows up in so many ways. And that one, being the only thing there is, being infinite, we have to be one of it. There's nowhere outside of that we can be. And so we are one of this infinite presence. We are already one of the love, one of the power, one of the life energy, one of the creativity and wisdom. We are that right here and right now. That is our nature. Whether we remember it or forget it, know it or don't know it, it is still the truth of us. And so I speak my word, and we take that energy, we take that awareness, and we open our minds, we open our hearts, we open our whole beings to that spirit that wants to express through us. That which wants to express through us. And we are openings, and we are conduits, and we are that which walks that knowing into the world. We are that which brings this truth into our place in the world. We don't have to worry about the other places and what other people are doing. It is our work, and to do our work, to be our presence, to be the presence right where I am. And so allow ourselves to be that. And then we stand in community with each other and hold each other in sacred love. And when somebody falls, we have a song coming up that says we fix it. We hold them in that love. We support each other as brothers and sisters. We are that space. And I'm grateful that we know this. I'm grateful that we are willing to embody this. I'm grateful for the heart-based yes that each of us gives to Spirit over and over and over and over again. No matter how many times that heart seems confused or broken, we continue to open and say yes to Spirit, knowing that eventually we are going to find the way to manifest heaven as earth, high consciousness as the normal consciousness of this planet. And so I release this word into a law that moves it into form, moves it into expression right here, right now, in, through, and as each of us, knowing that it does so, knowing that we are blessed and are a blessing. It is so. And together we affirm that by saying, and so it is. Bless you. Thank you.